Hi there, everybody. It's Michelle Akda back talking to you again about living the life you'd love to live. And I said we were going to talk about some of the transcendental thinkers of the mid 1800s because they were asking some really important questions. And it's been said the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask yourself. And most of us are brought up to ask pretty disempowering questions, myself included. Things like, how do I get to the end of the month and pay my bills? How do I make ends meet? And those are not questions that empower you. I mean, if we're going to be asking questions, how about asking a question like, how do I travel to the south of France and make an extra 10 grand doing it? Or something bigger than that, you know? So what the transcendental thinkers, the Daniel Hawthorne and the Alcotts, they used to get together to ask questions, to start thinking bigger, to ask bigger questions, to grow themselves into the answers and living the answers. And what happened was they'd meet every week, and from these meetings, the transcendental movement was inspired. And during this time, Nathaniel Hawthorne's handyman would sit on the outside of the room on the staircase and listen in. And over time, they couldn't deny that this man had such depth and knowledge that they had to invite him into these conversations. And this man was um, Henry David Thoreau. So what he said was, I don't want to talk about it. I want to be about it. I want to go out and live deliberately and suck the marrow out of life. And so what he did was he went out and lived deliberately for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days on a pond called Walden. I'm sure you've all heard of or read some of his essay, Walden. But at the end of this essay is a quote. Maybe you've heard it, maybe not. But captured in these words is a code to how the universe works and how we should live our lives. So I'm going to quickly read this quote to you because it is quite transforming. And what Thoreau said is, I have learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, endeavoring to live the life they are imagining, one passes an invisible boundary. All sorts of things begin to occur that never otherwise would have occurred. One begins to meet with a success unexpected in common hours. New, more universal, more liberal laws begin to establish themselves around this person, or the old ones are rearranged in one's favor. Nevertheless, one begins to live with a license of a higher order of being. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, let's crack it because it really is the way the universe works and it changes how you do things in your life. So what he says is if one decides, he says if because you don't have to make a decision to do that. You can go on living your life. This is elective. This is your choice. There's a lot of people who live 90 years, but most people live 1 year 90 times. So he says if you choose to, move in the direction, move confidently. This doesn't mean without fear. He says you're just moving confidently. You know, people who succeed are not people who don't have fear. They have fear and they move confidently anyway. And he says, if you move confidently in the direction, just in the direction, you don't have to know the end point. Most people don't start a journey, don't start a project because they can't imagine the end point. So because they can't imagine the end point, they can't imagine the last step, they don't take the first step. So he says, just move in the direction, this or something better. I don't know where we're going to end up, but you have to start moving, making the choice first, if to move confidently in the direction of what you say you would like. And as I said earlier in this video series, no wind is favorable to the sailor who has no direction, no destination in mind. So you have to move confidently in the direction of your dreams, endeavoring to live the life you're imagining. And an endeavor is just an attempt. It's not, he doesn't say, succeeding in the life you're imagining. He says endeavoring. You're giving it a try. You're giving it your best effort. And then he says one passes an invisible boundary. And what are those boundaries? Those boundaries are what we talked about 2 videos ago. The paradigms, those ideas we have about what we can do and what we can't do. I don't have enough money, or I'm too, I don't have enough education, whatever it is. We start passing those boundaries. We start living outside of the box of our paradigms, and it becomes freeing. So he says, if you choose, if you decide to make a choice to move confidently, just in the direction of your dream, you don't have to know the exact destination, making an attempt to live the life you're imagining, you start passing invisible boundaries, and all sorts of things begin to happen. This is when laws start to rearrange themselves. People come into your life that you're like, wow, what a coincidence. Kismet, coincidence, all those things start showing up in your life, and laws start arranging themselves in your favor. And you start meeting with a success of unexpected and common hours. And what are common hours? Common hours are your common hour thinking, your condition-based thinking, the thinking I can't do it. When you start making attempts and moving in the direction of the life you would love, you start passing in boundaries, kismetic, coincidental things start happening, and then you start meeting with success that doesn't happen if you didn't try it. And then he says one begins to live with a license of a higher order of being. Do you remember what it felt like to first get your license when you were 16 years old? You felt free. You could go anywhere. And in my day, you could drive without your parents. The first day you got your license, you got to just go, and you had freedom. And that's what a license is. A license is freedom, and you get to live with a higher order of being simply because you made a choice. You said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move confidently, not without fear, but confidently, just in the direction of my dream, making attempts to live the life I would love. And then I pass up those paradigms and those boundaries, and I start meeting with successes and meeting with coincidence. And then I get to live with a license of freedom, of a higher order of being. And this is the code of the universe. This is in play whether or not you understand it. Electricity is always in play whether or not you're in harmony with it. Whether you decide to plug in or not, the law of electricity is still working. And that is true for the law of getting out there and doing it. These laws are invisible, but they're there to move you closer to the life that you would love to live. So start doing things differently. Start making attempts. Choose to do something differently today in a way that you didn't yesterday, and see what happens. See what happens. Okay? And I will be back with another lesson next week. And if you have any questions about this lesson or want to talk to me, please leave me an email at michelleakda@lifemasteryinstitute.com, and I would love to talk to you about this. Until then, I'll see you next time.